Hey, I'm Larissa.
And I'm Rebecca.
And we're creatives coming alongside you to learn and grow on our journey to success.
And this is Broke at the Oscars.
Amen.
Brr, brr, brr.
We're back.
Okay.
We're back again. We're actually in the studio. I feel like
we
started doing this video thing and then we immediately
like started traveling the country.
I know, right? It was great though.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
It was. And yeah, we should address we missed the episode last week, which we didn't fully announce beforehand.
Yeah.
That was partly due to, we were working on a 48, so I feel like that's a pretty good excuse to not be able to record a podcast episode.
Yeah.
Also, I was dying, so that had a little bit to do with it.
You got COVID again.
No, I didn't. But I did have a cold. I got a cold right before the 48, and I do not recommend doing that.
Oh yeah, no,
because that was a little rough. I think what ended up happening was I got sick, and then I tried really hard to get over it before the 48.
Yeah, she was sleeping.
I was sleeping
for days.
12 hours as much as I possibly could. I was drinking cold medicine, doing everything I could, and I was pretty much over it by the time we got to the 48.
Yeah, you seemed decently.
But then I didn't sleep for 48 hours. I mean, I did. I slept twice. We
took care of you.
It wasn't that bad. Yes, and I do appreciate that. But I think I got sick again afterwards, but it all kind of ran together.
It was probably the same sickness. It was just
drawn out. Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm mostly over it now. Yeah. Still a little bit of, under a little bit of, I don't know, congestion or something.
Yeah.
But we wanted to this week kind of dissect our experience working on a 48 and talk a little bit about things we did well, things that we could have done better. For me, the list of things that I could have done better is much longer than the list of things that I think I did well.
Well,
I mean, there were some highlights, and it was a very fun experience.
Yeah.
It was a great cast and crew. I really enjoyed many aspects of doing this.
Yeah.
But as with any project that's rushed, there's definitely a lot of things that could have gone better. So, I don't know. Do you want to go first and kind of just? Yeah. Do you have I don't know if you have a list
well,
of things, or
me.
if you want to just go through it.
I'm not a list kind of a person.
Yeah, I don't really have a list either.
More of a oh yes, let me just splat all that information out there in the world.
Right.
I will say that it was a good experience, but I don't think it's very fair to judge too harshly just because of the nature of it being a 48. You can judge on story quality was less than, or video quality was less than, or I'm oh, well, that's kind of to be expected. You were given 5 hours to write a script.
Yeah.
And I'm and you were given, we had less than, because sometimes you have 48s people go for, I don't know, as long as it takes to finish. We had basically we got there at 8 and we had till 6:30 to finish shooting. That's less than 12 hours.
Yeah.
We had less than 12 hours.
Because we had to be out by 7. So we were packing up gear and throwing it out the door.
Yeah. I don't think we started shooting until 10:30.
Yeah.
It was
there was a bit of,
we had to get everybody through makeup and wardrobe. That took a minute.
And we walked through every scene.
That's true. We did do camera, almost like a shot list almost, but it was more just talking through ideas of how to shoot things. And then we had tried to do a read through with the actors with some things. It wasn't a full read through. It was just a portion.
Yeah.
And still working at as soon as we got there, basically they were still working on editing the script still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Grace, who is our script supervisor, she's going around to everyone's script and adding scene numbers, which was super helpful. Yeah. And also just rearranging all the lines and marking out all the changes that were made and everything, which
it was really nice.
Was very helpful.
Yeah.
But do you want to maybe just start at the very beginning of when we got the information Thursday night and kind of walk through it, and then because I have a feeling you'll have more to say about pre-production and I'm gonna have more to say about post-production.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to just start walking through that.
So from 8 p.m. Thursday night, we were given our list of criteria that we had to meet, like the key verse, which was 1 John 1:6, which is what's it? If you claim something, if you claim,
It was about truth. I know
it
that.
was. You see how deep this is going. But if you claim to have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, you lie and do not the truth. So it's like, it's a hard verse because it's so like specific.
Yeah.
But it is like
Very
super broad.
Yeah.
And we had an edge because we knew, we had an inkling that it was going to be about truth. Mm-hmm. Because the theme of the festival this year is truth, and that's free information from their website.
Yeah.
So we pretty much banked on it being about this sort of thing, but about this specific, and almost like a negative, like instead of saying like, oh, love Jesus, it wasn't a verse about, it was a negative verse. It's like, if you don't do this, you are lying. So it's like the idea of like, that negative aspect of, I say negative versus positive because that's just like in grammatical terms. I'm not saying it's a negative verse. I'm not saying that, but so the verse was a little different, that we were like, oh, okay, so we've got to play this a little differently perhaps than what we were intending. But before this, we had basically nailed down that we were going to use the one location, which was the location we ended up using. It's like a
super cool location.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't really want to say exactly right now because we're still before the festival.
Yeah.
So
totally.
it's still kind of a secret.
Hyped. Yeah.
Get hyped. So we pretty much nailed down our story idea. For the most part, like we were going to do this main plot idea in this location. What we should have done was nail down like characters and like have an actual plot story, more formulated. So because we went into it and we were like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this story, this works perfect, and we started writing, and our writer Leona, she was it was like, well, okay, so what are these characters like? And we're like, oh, I don't know. I guess they're like, I don't know. And who are we going to use, and what are their characters going to be like? Because I did this thing, which ended up working out, but it was very stressful, where I gave the art team to go to a location where they were going to get props and wardrobe. A local theater just let us borrow some things, which was super, super great, and ended up being like super valuable. But I basically sent off the art and wardrobe department like half an hour after we had seen the criteria, and I was like, all right, guys, go get stuff. Yeah. And they were on the car over, and they were calling us, and they were like, what are the characters like? What are we going to do? Because, like, you know, for costuming and wardrobe, and even like production design, they have to know what the characters are about.
Well, and that was one of our criteria, was that we had to emphasize the production design.
Yeah.
And like, I forget exactly how they phrased it, but basically like tell the character's story through the production design. Yeah. So it is like, it's like, how do you do that if you don't know the character? If you don't know the characters.
And so we're trying to write the characters, and they're trying to figure out the characters. So we ended up, it ended up being a little different from what I said on some of the characters, but it ended up working out fine. Yeah. But it was very stressful there because it was like, she's trying to write, and like, I don't know the story yet because we're still figuring it out. And they're like, so what is this? What is this? I'm like, this was, I don't know if I could have fixed this planning decision, because they needed to go get stuff that night. It's not like you could wait till the next morning.
No.
But at the same time.
And also, like, if someone's at the theater, like, they're not going to be there at midnight. It's like, you have to.
Yeah. I mean, even 9 o'clock was a stretch. That was pretty late already. Yeah. So
just take everything.
So just take everything. I'm like, anything. They did take a lot of options that, like they, actually, I think we ended up using pretty much everything they brought over, which was
in terms of props.
Cool. Yeah. In terms of like the props. Yeah. We didn't do anything with wardrobe really, but yeah. So basically from the beginning, it was like building our story, building our characters. And then me and the writer Leona, so we were up till 3 a.m. So she finished the basic script.
You guys got the least amount of sleep. Well, you and the production design people, I feel like got the least amount of sleep. They were all still like evident.
They were sleeping at a different location, but they went to bed around the same time we did. Yeah. So, and I was going to talk to you about, I was like, okay, so like, when are we going to talk shots?
Yeah.
Because you were the DP, which was super cool. And you were like, oh, so maybe I should get up at like 3 a.m. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, let's do that. So it comes to 3 a.m. We haven't gone to bed yet. And I'm like, I guess I planned on that.
I knew that was a possibility. Yeah.
I was like, you didn't come out of your room right away. And I was like, I think we really need sleep.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't we just wait till like 5 a.m.?
Yeah.
So I got like an hour and a half sleep.
Oh my goodness.
And then got up. Mm-hmm. We didn't end up talking about shots yet because we were mostly just breakfasting and getting out of the house.
I tried to talk about shots. I don't know if you remember this interaction.
Yeah.
But I was sitting at our table in our like dining room, living room area. And I was like, I struggled to get up that day. Because keep in mind, I'm still a little bit sick at this point, right?
Oh, right.
So I woke up at 3 and kind of like, I wasn't really awake until about like 3:20. And I think that was around the time you texted me. It was like,
I think you weren't out of the room at 3:15, and I was like, I don't think this is gonna happen.
Yeah. So then I like woke up enough to respond to your text.
Yeah.
And we said like 5 or whatever. So then I set my alarm for 5, and kind of same thing happened. Like I woke up and it took me like 20 minutes to get out of bed. Like I was out of it. And so I like go to the dining room table, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm trying so hard to like get myself into a place where we can like talk about shots, because I know it's super important, and like this is our window of opportunity, because at this point we're like, 30-45 minutes away from having to leave.
Yeah. And it's so an hour and a half drive.
I'm like sitting and I'm like, so do you have anything in mind? And I was like trying to go somewhere with that sentence, but before, like, it was like coming out really slow and whatever. Anyway, then you were like, I think you should eat some breakfast. We'll talk in the car.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
I was like, you need some breakfast.
And I was honestly like very surprised by how awake you were at that point in time, because, and this, I will say, I said this to you earlier, I really enjoyed watching you direct. It was exactly what I expected it to be. And it was very like high energy, like all throughout the day. But anyway, it's a bit of a rabbit trail. But that was just a funny thing that happened, like first thing. And I was like, man,
Well, you needed time. I mean, you had barely read the script.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was like, we can't talk. Like, she has to read. And you were reading through, and I think it was like,
and comprehending about half of it, if I'm honest.
Yeah. No, it was good because we discussed shots on the ride over, and that gave me an opportunity also to like think about like blocking for actors. So like I would write notes about like what I wanted them to be doing, because the script that was written, I mean, it was pretty basic. It was like very just much like dialogue and basic stuff that happens, not a lot of like action and like physicality.
Yeah.
So I had to like come up with that physicality. So like, okay, this person is sitting, this person is standing, they enter here, whatever. Yeah. Okay, we're going to see this, we're going to see this. And then we talked about, different shots and like ideas of like, how to make that work. And then when we got to the location, basically first we went over like script changes, and then we went out and talked about like, how we're going to shoot it, and basically planning out the shots. So I think that worked out really well. Yeah. And I'm glad we took that time, because then it also gave us time we needed to scout location. Yeah. Because we'd seen pictures. Yes. Like we hadn't really felt out the whole place.
And this is actually something we should talk about as well, because the location was a bit far away.
It was an hour and a half
which
drive.
Is like crazy for a 48. But it was cool that we were able to use that time. So it's like that's I think a big key to working on these things, is just figuring out how to use every bit of time that you have. I don't know that we used the time coming back from set as much. I know Grace was like doing some like scripty things, we didn't. And
I was
a little
like
bit
this, like,
I mean, it's still valuable to like relax and take a mental break. Yeah. So, that's definitely still valuable. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was cool that like on the way there, it was like, okay, let's talk through this. Let's come up with a strategy for shooting. And even it wasn't even like, there were a couple specific shots that we knew we wanted to do, but we talked a lot about like style and like how are we going to tell these characters' stories through a couple practical things, like a couple practical techniques that we can use just in general. Like, here's what it'll be like at the beginning, and then here's how it'll develop to the end. So yeah, that was cool.
And I think it's good to discuss like intentions, because you can have like shots blocked out, but I think it's good that we discuss like intentions with those shots, because like, we're shooting this dirty on purpose. We're shooting this wide on purpose. We're shooting this close on purpose. And I think that's super cool. And it's just so amazing to think about. I mean, this is just a very small piece of filmmaking, but in the big films, any film, everything is thought through. Every word that is written on the script is thought through. And if it isn't, it should be.
If it's not, you can normally tell as the viewer.
It has to be well thought through. Your shots are thought through. Nothing should be random. I mean, given I think there was like some stuff that we just had to do. I mean, we had to shoot coverage. It's like, okay, throw in that shot. And even you guys added a shot that I wasn't intending to shoot. I know there was a section where I wanted everybody to be back to the camera. And I wanted to just track with them and then not do a reverse. And then do reverses and close-ups when it came to the main talent. And you and Grace were both like, we need a reverse. We need to see the other side. And and I was like, okay. Because you guys had seen the footage and you knew what wasn't gonna work and what was. So I think it was, and then it worked really well in the edit, because it was very hard to get the one shot that would actually have worked well in an edit. Just logistical reasons. So yeah, it's just very cool that everything can be thought through and on purpose. And that can even be down to like the smallest. I mean, we did that a little bit on the smallest 48. And I don't know, that's just very cool to me. So I guess that was kind of our pre-production going into production process. I don't know if you want to talk more about like what production felt like. It was a little crazy.
It was a little chaotic.
Very chaotic in the beginning.
So, the cool thing that we did, we kind of mentioned, is we went around and like scouted every, part of the location that we were going to use for all the different scenes, and kind of, I was able to kind of like think through how we would shoot it. We were able to have 2 cameras, which was definitely a lifesaver. And
we got 2 Blackmagic cinemas. So
we did, yes.
Pretty great.
Side note, I think I can complain about this. We did shoot it in 6K and had to deliver in 1080p. That's all I'll say about
very
that.
Sore.
No, I understand.
I mean,
but we'll do a director's cut or something and release it in like 6K online or something. I don't know.
Maybe 4K.
Maybe 4K. But yeah, so that was really great that we were able to do that, take the time to do that. I missed out on, I think, one of the scenes that you like went and blocked without me, because I had to go help like start setting up, or like kind of get the camera op and our gaffer like started kind of doing some things, because we all got to location at the same time, so so that was like the one thing that I missed, but it wasn't that big of a deal. We were able to figure it out once we got there. So yeah, and then the main thing I would say in terms of like, just how shooting went, the main thing was that kind of a thing that I would have done, that I would do differently next time, is I think I wasn't prepared early enough with which camera we were going to use. So, because there's a lot of like back and forth between like, oh, should we use my Sony's? Should we use like the camera op had a Blackmagic? And I was like, that would give us a lot more flexibility with being able to shoot raw and all this. And so, but what ended up happening was we were able to get the Blackmagics, which was really great, but I didn't have the best lens kit for the one that I was using. So we ended up having to shoot a lot of like, I think mine was like an 18 to 35. So everything was like really wide from my camera. which for the most part worked out fine, but there were definitely a couple of times where we were doing like conversations that I wanted to like over the shoulders and we couldn't really get both of them at the same time. We had to like have B cam over here and then switch sides and like all that. So that was definitely something, because I actually ordered some lens adapters so I would have been able to use like my full lens kit, which would have been awesome. Yeah. And they arrived on Friday. So like when we got back from set, they were sitting outside our door. And I was like, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. Yeah. But anyway, so that was like one thing that I would have done differently is, you know, I could have been better prepared for that. There's like definitely a couple shots you probably know, like, you know, in the first scene there's a couple shots where it's like that's really not the best like shot that we could have gotten there, and I could have done something better if I would have been more prepared. But overall, having two cameras was really helpful to, you know, I mean, when you're shooting, when you have such a limited amount of time, you like need two cameras, because you have to be able to I mean, it basically doubles how fast you can shoot scenes. And I think I mentioned this in our previous episode where we talked about this, but a lot of our lighting technique going into it was that we wanted to keep it very minimal. Right. You know, just light the scene and then shoot it and just like not make tweaks. Yeah. And, yeah, go ahead.
And one note on that, it was perfect because it was outside. Yes. And praise the Lord, it was like cloudy the whole day. And there was a lot of like tall things, so it was a lot of shade, but it was pretty uniform lighting. And so I mean, there was dark spots he would have to like come in with the bounce. In the beginning there was some lighting set up, but like just the atmosphere of the space didn't really need and I mean, it's the film itself, it was, you know, supposed to be taking place outside and kind of maybe grungy or dirty, so it didn't have to look, you know, Hollywood pristine. Perfect. So but it was that worked out very well.
But no, that was another thing that was really great, was that our gaffer was just like really on it, just always, you know, there with the bounce if he wanted to, you know, bounce some light into the actor's eyes or whatever. And I really didn't talk to him a whole lot, which was really like a good thing in the sense that he was just always like there and prepared and like you know, knew what he wanted to do, and it looked great. So that was definitely very helpful. We had a couple like cool little lighting things we got to do with just some like little LED lights that you'll have to watch for in the film.
Oh, nice.
But it was a lot of fun. So I think that's most of what I had to say about production. The other interesting thing was that we did have 4 characters, and
which was cut down. We cut a character because we didn't need it.
I appreciate that. Well, technically, I'm sorry, we actually had 5 characters, but for most of the scenes, it was 4 of them. So that's what I'm meaning in terms of like setting up shots. Yeah, a lot of the scenes, it was like, okay, 4 characters.
That was a little difficult.
So, you know, it worked out, but there definitely, I don't know, there wasn't that much movement, but the more movement you have, the more characters you have, like the harder it is to kind of keep track of where everyone's at. So that was probably the most challenging part of everything. But overall, I think it worked out. We only broke the 180 line one time, and I don't think it was that big of a deal. So
I don't think it was either.
Yeah,
that was a difficult thing. And I will say it's hard because when you're trying to do something so collaborative, like everyone is pitching in, and I love how collaborative, because like people would come in with ideas on the day, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. Like, and then it some brilliant idea happened. I think Elijah, our gaffer, he actually came up with the idea.
The production design thing.
Which I'm not going to mention. But it's very cool, and then the actor did it, and then I noticed, and I was like, oh yeah, and they were mentioning how this could be like a really good like symbolism production design element, and I was like, yeah, that works great. And so then we put it into the movie on purpose more when we were doing like our montage stuff. And that was an idea that just came because of something that was on location that we didn't plan for. So there's so much cool collaboration and ideas that get shared around. And even like there was a blocking for the one scene that was hard to block because like there was all 4 characters in different spots, and there was a leaving and there was a coming and going, and it's like, how do you like start this scene? Because it just kind of like,
because it was coming off,
it's right off a montage, right? How do you start a scene right off a montage to like keep the momentum, but then like, okay, we're repacing now. And it was kind of like I put it to blocking something where they just like walk in and they're like, it takes so much time. And then the actors came up with some stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that works super great. And then they came in with like, we're going to shoot this. So it like drops right on this. And I was like,
we're able to cut on an action, which helped.
Which worked so well.
Yeah.
So you like cut on an action and then the camera just
and
pans up.
You're in
Is
the
that a
scene.
tilt or a pan? That's a,
I think that's a
it was a
tilt. I don't know camera terms.
Man. So it just works with the collaborative ideas.
Yeah.
I will say, that is hard to balance sometimes because when you're so open to everyone collaborating, then it's hard because I think with that scene there was so many voices that for me I have a hard time like making decisions already sometimes. And when there's so many voices giving ideas, I'm like, okay, those are ideas. They're all like valid ideas, but I can't use all of them.
Yeah.
So there were some points, and maybe not just that spot, but there were other points where I wish I would have been more clear. And this is a communication as a director thing, or talking to my AD. She had a cold, so she lost her voice. So anyway,
we were all sick. Just going. Well, not all of us. I think it was just the two of us.
AD
but
couldn't yell.
Yeah.
More. I'm like,
oh man,
this is like. She should have been able to yell, and she wasn't able to. I think
she was able to, though. At a couple times, she had our sound guy yelling quiet on set, which our sound guy was great.
He was.
But it's always so funny because, you know, it's a cliche. Sound guys are pretty quiet on set. And it's just really funny whenever one of them is suddenly very loud. And that's kind of what happened when because he has a great voice. And he was like, I don't know, he was able to, you know, very commandingly yell quiet on set. It was perfect. It was just what we needed, but it was also very funny.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wish I had been a little more clear from the beginning that like, you know, I want spaces where we're discussing shots to be spaces where we can just discuss.
Yeah.
And that's a hard balance to do because you want it to be very collaborative and everyone has such good ideas. But like there has to be a point where it's just us talking and everyone will just like settle for a second.
Yeah.
And then let us discuss.
Yeah.
But and I mean, it is,
like you said, it's a hard balance because on the one hand, you almost need more collaboration because we're all so fresh to the space and we're so fresh to the idea of the script that it's like, if it was all on one person to make all the decisions, it might be kind of overwhelming.
And I would have made some bad decisions.
Right. But at the same time, like, it does reach a point where there's too many voices.
Yeah.
And there were definitely times that I like tried to, I don't know if you caught on to that at all, but I was like trying to stay just focused on you, even if someone else was talking and just be okay, we're gonna make this decision. Yeah. I don't know if any of that translated mostly in post.
It probably did. I probably wasn't listening to those people either.
Yeah. We're just off in our own little world. Everyone else is
fine.
Like shouting at us for like, we got this.
I will say the thing about camera that I wish we had was I wish we had 2 camera operators.
That's true.
And it's hard to like do with like Video Village because that's like all like running cables and we were running and moving around a lot. So that would have been, I don't know if like a whole Video Village setup would have been great, but like even like if we could have gotten like a wireless monitor, I think that's just planned for next time. Have a wireless monitor.
Yeah.
And because I think it was a little bit detrimental and I was a little micromanaging as far as camera, and I knew I was going to be a camera director, a DP director. I knew I was going to be. I was like, I just know I'm going to be directing these shots.
Yeah.
But
which
you
was,
were on. It worked out. It worked out really well.
And also, I will say the other thing is there were definitely a few times that like I don't know. I just like having my hands on a camera because I sometimes have a hard time like visualizing and then explaining.
You're just like,
that vision where it's
this.
Like, I think I want you to kind of do this thing, but also I want you to look at it and see if it looks good and like make adjustments.
Yeah.
And so like for example, there were a couple shots where it was like, I was sitting there, I was like, I should pull focus. And like, I wouldn't have like told someone to do that, but there's 2 characters kind of like, you know, far away from each other and I'm focused on the close one. And it worked so well in the edit, but I don't know that I would have told a camera op to do that.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also, but like, that's when you have to like trust your team that they
Totally.
Like, be like, okay, I'm going to give you this, shoot this shot. I'm going to give you some freedom as far as like focus pulling. Don't pull. But yeah, that requires communication. Don't pull until this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm not saying I would never do that. To be clear, I guess I'm just saying, because especially this was my first time DPing. Yeah. And I think I was learning a lot about how to communicate with a camera op and how to like when to get them in the loop with like what the plan is, because you know, again, the plan is like changing a lot, so it's like you don't want to keep them up to speed with every plan because that would be overwhelming.
Okay, plan A has changed.
Yes,
plan B has changed.
And I will say our camera op Nick, he's super great, just like amazing to work with. But there were definitely like a couple times that I told him like, okay, this is the plan, set up this rig, and then I'd come back 5 minutes later, I'm like, no, it's not, tear that down. And poor Nick was just like, all right, and he just, you know, he went and did it and
with
like
it so well, like he didn't complain about anything.
No,
like
and
everyone was great. Nobody was like
shots
complaining. Everyone was like on top of things pretty much. Yeah, everyone was like just rolling with it.
Yeah, I would also say it was the perfect team in the sense that I'd say maybe like what like maybe 70% of us had all worked together like before, and we're all like friends too, which is just like really great. So we all kind of know how to communicate with each other and what it's like to be on set, because that's the other thing, like you can know someone but then their set personality is like maybe a different thing. And so I think that helped us to be really efficient, is just that we all like knew how to communicate with each other really well. But then at the same time, there was like a fair amount of other people that were kind of outside of that circle. So this was also a really great opportunity to build new relationships and like get to work with new people and, you know, meet a lot of talented people that live in our area, which was really cool.
And it was really cool. And I love that we were able to like have that mix of like familiarity and new people, because like half the reason like going into it, like, you know, build relationships and like make a film together and be happy with and I think we did that, you know. I mean, there's like problems with it, obviously. There's things that I wish I did better, but we did what we kind of set out to do. We like pulled a team together, we made a movie. We're all like built that relationship now, and like me and the writer, like we already have like we're already like going to like you know, we already have like one of the story ideas that we had for this. We're like gonna just like do it at some point. Amazing. So she's gonna like write it, and we're gonna do it at some point. Lord willing.
That's awesome.
And it's just very, very cool.
That's super cool. I definitely want to see you direct again.
I really I knew I would enjoy directing. I did do some things wrong. And there was a lot, because this is kind of my first time directing, people give me like, you just keep saying like, I want kind of like this or kind of like that. I don't do very good like direct communication on like exactly I want this, because half the time I don't really know that I want specifically that. I want kind of more like this or kind of more like that. And my sister's like, you just, it's very like fluid. I like kind of like, but sort of ish kind of. Anyways, so I need to like work on being more like just stopping and thinking through what exactly I want and then giving them exactly what I want, instead of a whole like stringy, fluid, mishmashy idea. I did enjoy directing, and I loved being able to like have my hand on everything. And then, you know, at the time when I can like take a step back, I like talk to this person and be like, oh yeah, how's this going? And like joke around with this person, and then get right back into it. And like, oh yeah, what blah, blah, blah. And then get right back into it. I really liked that dynamic of like being able to like really talk about things with every department and run between them.
That's super cool. So I don't know if we want to jump into like post-production a little bit.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead. All right.
So
we had our time wise. We have a couple minutes still.
There's a lot we could talk about. There's a lot that I think I could have done better. But also, I mean, we just like tried to do a lot too. I mean, we had an original. Is it okay for me to say this?
Yeah.
We had an original like music score.
Yeah.
For this film. And it's epic. It
really is.
I mean,
I love it so
I think it's like one of the best parts of the film, if I'm
really?
honest.
For
like,
sure, for sure.
It brings the film to a whole other level, which like you never see with 48s, because like why would you try and do that in 48 hours, you know?
I will say we were allowed to work on like, and we actually had a VFX of the animation credit animation.
That's true.
So I had that
the credits were awesome too.
Yeah,
those
I had
were
that
great.
going like I don't know, like 2 weeks in advance. I had the I think the score like a week or so in advance.
Yeah.
I had talked to him previously.
Because we kind of knew the aesthetic that we were going for.
The main track, the main theme, which ended up being like our sub theme and our main theme. Those were like pre-built. Like he wrote a whole song before we even started.
And then just kind of like timed it.
So then it was just about rearranging. And
that's cool.
So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so first of all, one of the things that I would probably do different going forward, because I've done 2 48s now, and for both of them, I've been the editor and I was also on set, and that's fine. That because you have time to sleep. You have to ingest the files and everything. If I were to do this again, I would probably want an assistant editor, so someone who, as soon as we come off set, they can take the footage and ingest it. And then this was a big thing that ended up taking way longer than I thought it was going to, is going through and sorting the footage and like syncing it all and just kind of organizing it.
Because you also had to put it in multicam too.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was like organizing them. And I will say this is something that was a lifesaver in post, was that between our first AD and scripty, they slated every single shot, which was insane. And
sometimes
it
I
was
was
all
annoyed by that, but
yeah, there were a couple of times, because this was another thing that was cool that really helped us, because like you said, we had a montage, and so while we were filming, there was like at the end of the day we had the last like hour or something to do the montage, and so we like kind of split up into 2 separate units, which is like a crazy thing to do on a 48. But yeah, we just had A cam like ran off and I was like grabbing all these things, and B cam was over here like shooting these other things, and you and the sound guy were kind of like running back and forth between us. So it's like while B cam was shooting, I was setting up for the next shot, and then while I was shooting, B cam was setting up for the next shot. And so but so the first AD and scripty, they were just like running back and forth between the two of us.
Funny.
And there's like one time I think that I started rolling before Slate was in the frame, because I thought she wasn't gonna make it, and then next thing I know, there's Villain and she's like slating, and I'm like, that's amazing. I was just gonna go with it on set, but
yeah,
I would say that was definitely lifesaver in post, and just to have like the scripty notes about like I didn't have to watch all the footage, and I will say, as the editor on a 48, it's definitely helpful to have been on set, because I don't have to watch all the footage, because I already kind of know what I'm getting into, and we just shot it yesterday, so
and you're like, I know exactly that the last shot is the one.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was definitely helpful, and I like, if I'm editing, I like being on set. But I would say if we could have an assistant editor to go through and, ingest the footage, sort it all, sync it, do the multicam, like all that. Because that was the other thing, shooting with 2 cameras, it made sense to do a multicam. So, yeah, just kind of organizing all that. Because that ended up taking up a good bit of time. And also I had a transfer error. Because what I did was I started the transfer, and then I slept for like 5 hours or whatever it was. And, was assuming that was how long the transfer was going to take. And so then when I woke up, it would be done. But when I woke up, one of them had failed. So it ended up costing like, I think about 30 minutes. It wasn't like the end of the world, but it was still like 30 minutes in when you're in such a crunch time is like, it's a lot. So that was like one thing that I would do differently. But yeah, then after that, it's just, a day of stress, just trying to get everything done in time. And there were a couple of things. I think if we had the assistant editor like that method, that would have solved a lot of these problems, because a lot of times, I don't know, it's just so hard to like leave any time for the sound pass and the color pass, because you're trying to like lock the edit, and I don't know.
I mean, really, that is the most important thing, is the locked edit.
Yeah,
and there was a lot of tweaking that I was working with you that probably would have been fine if I hadn't, but
Yeah,
I think
maybe.
it worked better, like taking a little extra time to make it like.
Well, and there were certain things like I know we spent a bit of time on the montage, and there was like one point where you said like, "Oh, do you want to like move on and then we'll come back to this?" And I was like, "No, I want to lock this." So you know that was kind of like the big thing was like, let's just
get a section done,
lock it, so I can move on and not have to come back because it's less time efficient to
and then you were
back.
able to give that section to the composer because he basically I mean it was only 30 seconds, but he made a fully composed 30-second track.
So crazy.
Like plus, and then I mean we gave him like an hour at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, color was doing color.
That was the
color
thing.
Had only had
we
an
only
hour.
had an hour for color.
Yeah.
And then simultaneously,
and
music
sound.
and the sound pass was happening. And
that's what killed us. Really,
it wasn't enough time. And because the consequence of that was that we were so like pressed up against the deadline that when we had an hour to do all those things, and as soon as they're done, we compiled all the elements and started compressing it, and we desperately needed to watch it through.
We should have. Like there was, I mean, I would have liked to have more time fixing sound problems and like finishing the composing track, because like he did a lot, but there was parts that were like not quite finished, and he knew that, and he's like, "Let me have the director's cut, and I'll like finish the composing." Yeah. But then there was parts where we just laid it in, and I mean most of it honestly it like worked really well,
better than
but there were parts where it's like I would have wanted this to drop down lower.
We lost a couple of lines of dialogue for various reasons, which
really
was
just one mainly,
and then a couple others for not for music, just for in sound mix, which was so I definitely would want to leave more time for all those elements. So that was like a big takeaway from this, which is funny because like I should have learned that from the first 48 that I did.
Because
like,
you edited that one.
I did. And kind of same thing. We only had an hour for sound. But what they ended up doing with that one is they didn't even really color it. They just slapped a LUT on it. And then there was no music for that one at all. So it was literally just the sound design. And so it worked out. Like that was enough time. You know, it wasn't like the most polished thing in the world, but it totally worked. Like, it worked out well, I would say. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like, to a degree I should have like learned that after the first one, but now it's like, okay, now I think I see more what the root of that issue was and like have a better idea of how to prevent it next time. So so that was cool.
Yeah. I think there's value in making mistakes because then you like can learn how you made those mistakes.
Totally. Yeah.
And like what to fix.
Sometimes I have to make a mistake a lot of times before I realize what the common denominator is.
And I think that's true for me too, because you can just say like communication all day, but if you don't actually make a mistake and be like, okay, here is where my weak spot is in communication, or here is where my weak spot is in planning, or like.
And also, if it just happens once, like, especially, okay, in this instance for 48s, like, to a degree, I think I just thought, like, oh, that's what doing a 48 is it's just, like, that's all the time you have for certain things.
With my directing, I would say half of that is exactly true.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There was things where it's like, okay, in a realistic world, I would be directing this way more. I would be way more picky, but, like, it's fine. We got coverage. We're going.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think doing more than one, it is helpful to start to see that pattern, and also to see like, oh, there actually is a solution to this. It's not just, because there's definitely some things where it's like, this is going to be rushed, but there's other things where it's like, no, I just need to manage my time better, or we just need this one other element that would help that. But anyway, so overall, I thought the post-production process went really well. I was like pretty in the zone. I wasn't as in the zone as I was for the first 48 that I did, because for that one I didn't stand up for like 7 hours. I was just like in the zone, like don't talk to me, like just I couldn't, just focusing on the computer screen.
But we actually came in a lot. There was a lot of spectators to the editing process.
There were, and I was totally fine with that. And I would say towards the beginning of the day, I did a lot more like talking with people. And then like towards the end of the day, I don't even remember what part I was working on, but I remember like looking back and being like, there are 7 people in this room, and I did not realize that until this exact moment. Because I was literally just like, so-and-so, and I think I was talking to you about something. And so
yeah, maybe, yeah.
Everyone was like, my point is everyone was doing a great job of being quiet
they were all
and
very,
like
it was great.
not being disturbing. And you know, I get it. It's like, it's exciting, and it's, you know, I like having people in the room when I'm editing, but it's also like, I don't know. Yeah, as long as it's not distracting, I guess I should say. It's just like, but I don't know. I like the opportunity to, you know, bounce ideas off of people and that sort of thing. But so anyway, that was cool. And,
well, good.
Yeah.
Glad it was not annoying.
Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No. I will say the one annoying thing, and this wasn't anyone's fault, was when I was doing the sound mix in DaVinci, and I was using someone else's computer, and they did not have autosave turned on as frequently as I did, and I'm used to working in Final Cut, which autosaves after every keystroke.
Oh wow!
And I know it's amazing. It's the best feature of Final Cut. But yeah,
sponsored by Final Cut.
Yeah, that could be kind of a diss if I said their best feature is their autosave. Anyway, so I'm working. Moving on. Moving right along. So I'm working in DaVinci for the audio mix, and it crashed on me, and I lost like 15 minutes of work, which was like really devastating at that point in the day, because we were like,
you only had an hour.
Yeah, we were probably an hour away from the deadline, and I was just like, I'm done. I was like, oh man, it literally, like, that was the moment where I was like, I don't know if I can finish this in time. Like, that thought hit me, and I was like, what is gonna happen? And that was like right around the time that you said, well, if we don't get it submitted in time, at least we made a film together. And that lit a fire under me. I was like, no, we're submitting this. I don't care if it's good or not, we're submitting this.
Yeah, well, because you know, there's a lot of stress. It's like, you know, it's okay.
But what was funny to me is that your attempt to like alleviate that stress, it did alleviate stress, I'll be honest, but it also made me be like, no, we're gonna submit this. I will not accept that.
Wow.
And so,
well, I didn't.
Yeah, I know you didn't, because it was like you weren't even really talking to me. It was just kind of like,
I knew you didn't have time to really talk. So.
Yeah, because I was just sitting there like stressed. I know everyone like kept walking past, and I could tell that people were like trying to like not disturb me, which is a really like funny feeling. I don't know.
Yeah, when people are like tiptoeing, you're like, this is more annoying that you're like tiptoeing around.
Yeah, it wasn't really annoying. It was just
or like more distracting.
Like, I would notice 2 people like standing and like talking quietly far away from me, and I'm like, it's because you're trying not to disturb me. Okay, but it's like, almost
more distracting.
I wouldn't say more distracting. It's short. It's still distracting, but it's for a shorter period of time, because then I can just like go right back into it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate everyone's like trying to leave me alone, and it was definitely, that was the highest stress hour, I would say. Well, probably the last like 2 hours were the most stressful.
Yeah.
As they should be. So,
and then I was just running around, like I'm like, I have no job at this point. I have no job except to like help them finish.
Oh yeah.
Because then I'm like supposed to be like, you know, critiquing and getting my vision and making sure everything comes out the way, you know, the way it's supposed to.
Yeah.
So I would go in and like, you know, talk to that's probably a bad thing. If you only have an hour, you can't be stopping and critiquing, oh, I want this color graded like this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I did that a little bit, but in the end, I had to just like let him do his thing.
Yeah.
Like and in the end, like Elaine, like the AD yelled at me a little bit because
I was gonna say, the funny thing is you were like running around to each of the stations, and then Elaine was like right behind you, like, no, you don't have time. You don't have time.
I was just like, can you make it? I was like, at the end when he was like pretty much done, he was just like looking over shots. I was like, can you make this more contrasty or something? Can you like adjust? And she's like, you do not have time.
Yeah.
But he did it anyway. He was like doing it while she was saying you don't have time.
Oh,
I was
my
like,
goodness.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But also it just took like That's the thing.
Man.
It's like if everything you do takes, it's just going to take a second.
Yeah.
It's just going to take a second.
The
Just going to take a
seconds
second.
add
All
up.
the seconds are going to add up.
How many seconds do you have in 48 hours?
Oh, I could do the math, I guess, but I have no
probably not
idea.
worth
5,492. I don't know. It's probably more than that.
Yeah.
But I think it was good because I did talk to like the composer a bit too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we lost a
We lost a light. Oh no. Batteries are dying.
Yeah.
It's okay. My batteries are dying a little bit.
Yeah, mine too. I was able to talk to the composer and stuff and a little bit during that hour and get like, okay, no, I want this or like change it to this instrument, which worked out really well. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm glad like that I took away
Well,
time to
and-
like make tweaks because it's now, even though like it's not perfect, it's better.
And you had more time to talk to him.
I
At
did,
least,
yeah.
like throughout the day. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
I
there
did,
was still some conversations happening in the last hour or so, but
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
last hour, it was kind of like I went over there and I was trying to tweak some things, and then it's like, oh, just go, just do these things, and
Just
it's like whatever
print it.
he did was, it's fine. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's good.
Yeah.
And it ended up being good.
yeah. That is another thing. Like, it's important to, and I think we had that for this team, but it's important that like each of your team members is very like competent with what they're doing and like that you can trust them with that. Like,
Yes.
because there definitely does come a point where it's like, do whatever you think is best and we'll put it in the movie, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's half of the edit is just you. I came
Yeah.
in and like tweaked some things.
Yeah,
I told
that
you
is
what I
true.
wanted with the montage. I
Yeah.
think the most that I edited was the montage, and then there were
Yeah.
like some specific things that I wanted done with the ending. But like everything else was like just you, and it turned out great. I must say, hire Rebecca for your editing needs.
Yeah. It was fun. It's very fun to edit footage that you shoot. It's fun and frustrating, but it's fun because like you know what the plan was. And so like you see, because sometimes when you get footage from someone else who is a DP, you get these shots and you're like, what
Am I supposed to
what
do
was
with
the
this?
intention for that? And then you read the scripty notes and you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, if you're the one who shot it, you like know what the plan is. So,
Yeah.
you know, again, that makes the edit faster. But also if something is wrong, the only person you can be mad at is yourself. So
Yeah,
that kind of sucks.
That sucks too.
I hate anything that, oh man, I'm perfect. So like anytime anything happens where it's like I messed up, it's like, are you kidding me? It's just devastating.
I feel you, bro. I feel you. No,
Oh my goodness.
I mean, yeah, that is. It's hard. It's like great to be like kind of like the head, but also that means the buck stops there.
Yeah, that's very true.
So
Yeah, you want the glory, you got to take the responsibility.
I will say, like, I don't like. There's things that obviously like. I would do different if I had like more time. If I had mainly just like I should have settled for less, but like at the time we didn't really have time to like do extra takes. So there was a lot of like I didn't communicate with the actors very much. Like I was like, yeah, it's fine. That's great. That works. We're going on. Like and there it's funny because I mentioned and Leona, the writer, she was actually also an actor, which was really cool. I was mentioning to her that I was like, I would just yell cut and then be like moving on and talking and walking away. And I'm like, I didn't really like give them any like feedback. And she just said it didn't seem like that way. I was like telling people, but it's interesting. Like I didn't really talk. Like I would say, you go here, okay, and say your lines. And sometimes I would like redirect or have them reset and do it again.
Yeah.
So I did give notes, but there was a lot that I didn't. Like I did not talk to them.
Well, and to a degree,
lot.
that is a consequence of doing a 48 because on a normal set, you'd have all this time while like the DP knows what the next shot is, so you don't have to be communicating with them. Because that was the thing. Like a lot of times it was like, okay, moving on. What scene are we doing? Okay, let's just double check this coverage. This looks how we thought it was going to look. You know, we were talking a lot and and then you'd be like waiting for lights to be set up and all that. But in this instance, it wasn't. You just didn't have that time.
Really, in an ideal scenario with the set, maybe not on 48 set, but you would have your stand-ins come in
Yeah.
while you're talking about your shots and your lighting, and while they stand there with your cameras working, then you go talk to your actors. Yeah. And then you swap out and then you do the thing. Yeah. But, that didn't really happen. So while we were discussing, they were just off, loafing around, I guess, just waiting. And then I would come in and then they're like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I think
just do that. And then
honestly, the actors, I think, worked together a lot. So they would be like running lines together.
Okay, that's good.
And like,
I didn't really pay attention to what anyone was doing.
I mean, I wasn't, I saw it a little bit, but then just in talking to some of the actors afterwards, I think that's what happened. So, that was great. I mean, that's one benefit to having, a larger cast. They can entertain themselves.
And it was really great because like I didn't really direct them a lot because they came to the table, their lines were memorized. For the most part, their lines were memorized. They were on it. You'd show them where to go, where to start and where to go. That was the main problem. I would show them where to start, but not as much where to go. So that's the main thing. Lesson 1, tell them where they exit. Yeah. So that's a big thing. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they pretty much came to the table. They did some quirky things. They did a character thing. And I was like, yeah, that works really well. They had their lines memorized. And I was like, it took a load off of me. Like, I didn't have to babysit anybody. Yeah. That was, like, the main thing. Like, I could just trust everybody. I mean, I did micromanage camera a lot, which I probably should not have.
Which is funny because you keep saying that, but I didn't feel micromanaged.
There was just a lot as like, oh, no, I want you to move this way. Or like, can you like, I talk before it's set. Yeah. I'm like, touch. Maybe. Like, I want this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, this isn't the final shot. Okay, cool. Good job. Keep working. Yeah. Everybody.
I mean, maybe that happened a couple times. I didn't really feel that way anyway. And maybe I was just distracted. But like because, I want it to be what you want it to be. So like, if you want some, small tweak, like tell me, Yeah. So
ideally, you would have been the DP. I would have just talked to you, and then you talked to your camera operators. That's true. How it should have gone.
But also, it's a 48. We don't always have time for that. So
yeah, the flow of communication has to be like way like taken down to like the bare bones, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of good things. I think there was a lot of perks because then you like just do it and you have fun. And you shoot a short, and you get your little experience, and then you find out, oh, here's some stuff that I could do better for next time, and then I have plans to direct another one, which is a regular film, like it's not a 48, but like then I'll have to work with what I do in a more time allowing setting, and then I'm gonna make mistakes there, and then I can learn, and that's just.
And well, also this is something that we talked about, I think, like right after the 48 was that. I was just saying, like, the thing about 48 is that it almost gives you more freedom to, like, be more daring and, like, try things that you wouldn't necessarily always try because, this is so sad, but because the expectations are lower. Right. So, for example, I'd never DP'd anything before, and I was, like, a little, like, nervous about that going into it. I don't know that I would have agreed to DP, like, a short where it's like someone has spent a year of their life, like preparing for this and like it's their baby. And it's like, now I'm going to DP this and like, I don't know, like I've never done this before. But like, in a 48, it's like, I'm not like some of the shots are not like, I'm not going to put them on my reel, but it's like, if someone watches it, they're going to be like, but it's a 48, so like the expectations are just really low. So like it gave me the boldness to take on that role. And so now that I've done it and I, have learned like, okay, here's some things I could do to be better prepared going into it. Here's, some things that I could, I don't know, just ways I could do it better. Yeah. Now I'm more inclined to, if someone were to ask me to DP a short film, it's like, okay, I'm more inclined to take on that type of role. So it is cool for those types of opportunities as well. And like you said, earlier, getting to know people and, either meeting new people or just like strengthening connections with friends that you already have. So yeah. Overall, I would say 10 out of 10 experience. 9 out of 10.
Yeah, a little less than 10. it's a pretty cool like little. I guess how you're saying it is basically it's kind of like a film school experience.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of.
Yeah, film school in 48 hours.
Buckle up, guys.
You come out with the same amount of debt somehow.
What? I don't understand. Anyway,
I don't know if I fully understand either, but
I need to go. So
yes, we should wrap this up.
Take props back.
Yes,
to the theater.
Yeah. So, yeah. I feel like there's more we could say.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I probably need to do. What I probably need to do is like do some like writing and like thought journaling of like more specifically what I did wrong, what I did right, what I liked, what I didn't.
Yeah. But overall, I'd say big takeaways are just that I learned a lot and had a really good time. So
yeah, I think big takeaway is that I learned, and like people would come up to me and say that I did a good job directing, which was validating and really nice to hear because this is the first time since college that I've really directed a thing. And college I was not. I mean, maybe I was an okay director. I just didn't really do it well at all, basically. So this was a good like experience that validated I like doing this and I do want to continue doing this. So
that's really cool.
And it was a less pressure situation to do everything perfect.
Yeah.
I guess, like you said.
Yeah.
So it was cool. You got to DP for the first time.
Yeah.
I got to direct for the first time.
Yeah.
Really. For real.
Here's to that.
Yay.
The first of many more.
Yay. You should. Where's your water? Cheers.
Oh.
Clink.
Clink. It's a very unsatisfying sound.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, man. Well.
Yep.
To anyone who is still listening / watching.
Why are you still watching?
Well, I was going to say thank you, but I guess why is also an equally valid question or sentiment. But yeah, thanks for sticking around, and hopefully this made sense. But yeah, I think we're gonna. I don't know if we're gonna do maybe a director's cut. Should we promise that?
I don't know that we should promise it, but I think I still want to.
Yeah, because there's a desire there, but irregardless, it'll be showing. Well, actually, we don't even know if it got in, so maybe we shouldn't promise anything.
Oh, well,
but you should get hyped.
After the festival, we can send out links.
Yes.
To people. We can make it public after the festival.
Yeah.
But before the festival, it's pretty much all very private.
At some point, you will have an opportunity to see this film. Opportunity. Well, I had a really hard time with that word.
I don't know. I think you guys should just not watch this film and pretend you did.
Ideally,
and
it would be a
director's
director's cut.
Okay.
But we don't want to promise that. But anyway.
Oh, no!
Oh, all the lights are turning off. Okay, it's time to go home.
It's time to go.
All right. We'll see you guys on set.
The audio people are like, what is going on?
Why are they freaking out so much?
Okay, see you on set.